Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. We're going to give everyone just a couple minutes to start to filter in here. And as you join, you'll notice that a pre-poll questionnaire has popped up on your screen. And if you don't mind filling that out before we get started, we greatly appreciate it. There are 5 questions in this poll, so please make sure that you scroll down entirely to answer all the pre-poll questions. And again, we're just going to give folks a minute or two to just join in. And in the meantime, thanks again for filling out these pre-poll questions for us. Give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll kick things off. So if you're just joining us right now, welcome to today's webinar on getting real about sports nutrition for high school athletes. And as a couple more people are joining us right now, there are 5 pre-poll questions for you to fill out for us before we kick things off. All right, I have 3:31 on my screen, so I want to be sensitive of everyone's time today, so we will go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to today's webinar titled Getting Real About Sports Nutrition for High School Athletes. Thanks so much for joining us today to learn a little bit more about this very important topic as many students begin to return to sports. My name is Liz Jalkowitz, and I'm a registered dietitian with the American Dairy Association Northeast. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, we're a nonprofit organization representing over 10,000 dairy farm families within our territory, which covers New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and DC. Through, on the next slide, please. Through our Refuel with Chocolate Milk program, we collaborate with a variety of partners in both the private and public sector, which also includes our high school athletic associations. And American Dairy's Refuel with Chocolate Milk program helps to sponsor high school athletics within our region by providing funding for various championship events, as well as nutrition education for both coaches and student athletes. I also want to remind you on this slide that we have an exciting raffle prize giveaway on today's webinar for 3 lucky winners. But to be eligible, you have to be on for the entire length of the presentation. And the prize is actually a really cool prize. It's a Refuel with Chocolate Milk refrigerator cooler, for the weight room. And you also get $500 to stock it with chocolate milk. So we'll be selecting those 3 winners at the end of this presentation. So good luck, everybody. Next slide. So on this slide, we have our 2020 Sports Nutrition Advisory Panel with the Dane, which I help to manage. And one of the main jobs of these panelists is to create relevant and timely content for you, our high school coaches, to then turn around and utilize with your student athletes. And you could find more information about this content on americandairy.com. Next slide. So speaking of our website, americandairy.com, here you can find, in addition to the sports nutrition content, there's a lot of great other general dairy nutrition information on milk, yogurt, and cheese, to sports nutrition, and so much more that you can share with your student athletes as appropriate. Next slide. On this slide, lastly, I just want to share our social media platforms with you so that you can, feel free to like us if you don't already do so. There's lots of great content on there that pertains to student athletes that you can share with parents and kids. So on this next slide, I'm very pleased to introduce you to Heidi Skolnik. And I'd like to provide a brief bio for Heidi to you all. So, considered a thought leader in nutrition, Heidi has influenced many through her media work, writing, and thriving consulting business. Her company, Nutrition Conditioning, oversees the sports nutrition program at the Juilliard School and the School of American Ballet. Heidi has also been a part of the Women's Sports Medicine Center at the Hospital for Special Surgery for over 20 years. Additionally, she served as the team nutritionist with the New York Knicks, the New York Giants, and the New York Mets, and has worked with countless other professional and collegiate organizations over the years. As a sought-after speaker, Heidi presents internationally, and she's an expert resource in the media as well. Heidi earned 2 master's degrees in exercise science and human nutrition and is a fellow with the American College of Sports Medicine. So without further ado, we are now going to have Heidi share her screen so she could take it away. Thanks, Heidi.
All right, well, thank you so much. And I do appreciate the American Dairy Association can never get enough of, because this is what you do, right? This is who you work with, and you want to help these athletes do the best they can. Today, we're going to talk about understanding the conceptual framework for developing athletes. Let me just get this out of the way here. Okay, for developing athletes' nutrition needs, recognizing the wide range of nutritional needs of high school athletes and how they differ based on growth, development, and training. We're going to talk about strategies that can be encouraged at every age and stage, and what you can do to encourage sports nutrition in your developing athletes. So I went to where we all go, I think, when we first want to investigate a topic. When I was given this topic to talk to, I said, well, what is everyone hearing? You know, when you go to Google, what is it you find? And so this is what I found. These were the headlines. These foods on and off the court. 10 foods athletes should eat. And this included wild fish like salmon, tuna, and trout, grass-fed beef, organic chicken. And I hope that if you were reading this, you would come to the same conclusion I did, which is that it's completely false. You know, having worked with professional sport teams for the last 2 decades, I can assure you that athletes across the board share many different types of foods and food styles, and they can be successful without ever having eaten a piece of wild fish. So let's get rid of some of the myths and get on to what you can really do and what is really realistic for the age and stage of high school. So where are high school athletes developmentally? And I say that because you know more than anyone that it isn't just where they are physically, it's also where they are mentally. And so it's very different if we're talking about like type A or B. If there's food insecurity, and this is particularly important right now coming back from COVID, is that, or while we're in the middle of it, is that there's a lot of diving, any of those that are more aesthetically driven or weight class driven. And what kind of competitive level are we talking about? Is it recreation? Are they playing in school? Or are they playing on a competitive league outside of school in addition to school participation? And then remembering, of course, that they are in fact teenagers. And that means that by nature they are in the here and now. And planning is not something that they are inherently very good at. And what that means around food is they're probably, without a lot of encouragement, going to plan ahead. And when they're hungry, they're going to eat what's available. So I think this is a really good construct I wanted to share with you, this model to really kind of get the hierarchy of need, and recognizing that in the green is the foundation. And this is really the priority for junior and development athletes. We're talking about well-planned meals and snacks chosen from a wide range of nutrient-rich foods to meet sports nutrition goals. That's the fundamental, that's the basic, and that's something almost everyone can really have access to. The foundation has been achieved. we can look at the added benefits that may come from using sports-specific foods before, during, and after an event or workout to refuel, rehydrate, repair, and adapt. And then finally, at the very top of that pyramid, and also at the smallest, right? It's sometimes this pyramid seems to be inverted and it's not really helpful. That final layer for elite athletes who have already achieved a sound nutrition plan is to look at the small boost that could come from a few ergogenic supplements. So with this in mind, let's look at our first polling question. What is the most important aspect of nutrition for growing athletes to focus on? Figuring out their protein needs, getting enough calories to fuel growth and development, figuring out their carbohydrate needs, getting a post-practice recovery snack. Do a few seconds to make your best guess.
Hi, Heidi. This is Liz. I just wanted to cut in real fast. We had a couple people in the chat box just saying that there's a little bit of a lag with the video, not the slides, but just the video and hearing you speak. So we were wondering if you could take a moment to call in to the line just for a clearer sound.
Sure. So should I wear my headset as well?
I think you could just do it right through the phone. So I actually have, I will message you, and I apologize, attendees who are listening. We just want to make sure we give you the best quality and that you can hear our presenter speaking clearly. So again, apologies if you just give us about 30 seconds. We're going to have Heidi call in. And Heidi, I'm going to message you via the chat with the number that you can call in, okay?
Okay, sure.
And thank you everybody for your patience. Okay.
So you're messaging me on my
through
on my
Zoom
cell.
right now. So the call-in number I just sent to you, and then the passcode I'm sending right now.
I'm sorry, but what I don't understand is where I'm going to see that number. It's on you're messaging me through.
Yep, there's a chat box right on the bottom of the screen, of the Zoom screen.
Chat.
You should see a little bubble
Okay,
there.
yes, got it.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and I want to assure the attendees that we did do a practice run through right before this webinar, and of course everything runs smoothly, but like with everything else in 2020, we are adapting and overcoming, and we want to bring this, you know, all this great content to you so that you can hear it in a, you know, with great sound and not have any issues. So thank you again for your patience. Okay.
And I even have an external mic here.
We'll see if it works with just the phone. Okay. Okay. All right. And we'll be sure that when we send out the recording link after this, we will edit it and clean it up for you so you don't have to hear Heidi and I go back and forth during this part. So again, thanks for your patience. Heidi, just let us know how you're doing once you're dialed in.
Oh, I'm dialed in. I put in the passcode.
Okay. And Courtney, if you're listening,
the meeting ID.
Say it again.
Is the passcode the same as the meeting ID?
Correct. Correct. Should. Okay. And everybody, we have the poll on hold right now. We're going to broadcast it in a second. We just wanted to get Heidi's sound audio situated.
So they're asking if I have a host code.
Okay, I will put you. Okay, let me call on the back end. Okay, your participant ID 244034.
Say that one more time. They were talking in my ear.
244034. Okay. We just noticed people commenting. Yep. Let me know if you're through, Heidi.
No, it says it's invalid. I'm going to start over.
Hi Heidi, this is the American Dairy Zoom Tech jumping in for you guys today. Nice to meet you all. I would suggest maybe as a backup option, if we can't get the phone to work, just potentially turn off your video and just use your computer audio. That might be where the lag's coming in if your computer is handling video and the presentation.
So you want me to turn off video?
Yeah, we'll see if that.
And you can proceed with just audio, and that should be able to fix things for us.
Turn off, stop video. Okay.
All right, and then we're going to broadcast that poll. There we go. We got everyone's responses. And Heidi, once you just put that in slideshow mode again, you'll be good to go. All right. So these are the results. You should see them on your screen, Heidi.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I'll turn off my video and you can take it away. Thank you again, everybody, for your patience. Appreciate it.
All right, so everyone, good news is the majority of you do know the right answer to that question, which is getting enough calories to fuel growth and development. In fact, that is the most important thing. That is the most fundamental aspect, is that without those calories to fuel growth for both males and females, their performance on the field, will suffer. And so we really need to recognize the difference in the timeline for growth and the individual variability that can occur in high school, and always allowing for personal and ethnic differences in body type. Understanding body changes and effect on performance. So for females, it is not uncommon, in fact, that they may gain a little bit of weight before they go through pubescence as their body prepares for that. Their age, the average age is 10 to 14. They're close to full height in the 6 to 12 months before menstruation, and obviously their hips broaden, they develop breasts. In males, by age 12, they begin to go through puberty. Their peak growth, though, it can be 2 years after, and they may be gaining 4 inches plus per year, and that can continue, and they may continue to put on weight and muscle through, after high school through into their 20s. So understanding these differences and the caloric needs that go on, as well as the pressure each is for body development, weight, and that's something we'll talk a little bit more about, is crucial. Helping them understand, you understand that their body changes and that you expect that, and that's, they might even become a little less coordinated as their limbs are growing before their core grows into it. They can still be working on skill, and then they gain that back. They sort of grow into their bodies. But it is something that is often unsettling without the understanding of those around them. So the fundamentals that we really can promote, as opposed to focusing on weight, is to really help them to focus on their patterns of eating, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. As simple as that may seem and basic, it's one that many high school athletes don't actually practice, and then we can add nutrient timing on top of that. Helping them to come to practice prepared the same way you would expect them to come, in the appropriate uniform, sneakers, equipment, and fed, ready to practice and play. And we're really actually encouraging that they try new foods, expand their food vocabulary, promote self-efficacy. It is the time often high schoolers will begin to differentiate and try out sort of different types of eating, and we want to support their effort but not impose our thoughts on them about how they should be eating. We're encouraging more balanced meals as opposed to some of these far out diets that they may hear about and want to try on. And hydration is something that you'll all be hearing more about. I think next week there is another webinar that's really worthwhile to tune into. So talking one-to-one, I mentioned before, like really tuning into each each of your students and having time to have a sense of where they're at and where their headspace is at. So use nutrition to support other goals like speed, power, endurance, strength. Body is only one aspect. Concentration, skills, mood, sleep, all of these things nutrition will help to support in terms of their going after their goal for their sport and their skill attainment. So we want to recognize again, what's the duration intensity? How different is the demands and how much does them understanding time management and fitting food in based on, is it a 1-a-day practice? Is it 2-a-days? What's the training load? How intense? It's really different if we're talking about one practice a day and how their nutritional needs might be different than when their training load increases and we're talking about more than once a day. And what does their day look like? As specific as we can get into the sports nutrition world and dynamic, what really ends up happening is helping them manage all of their time, which is again not something that they're necessarily all that equipped for in high school. So they have busy schedules between going to school and practice, family obligations, social obligations, maybe religious school, other kinds of clubs, playing music. There's a lot to fit in. Do they have a plan or do they have no plan? How do they manage that? So what does their athlete schedule look like? This may be a key into how to give them ideas on how to manage it. So what time do they wake? How far are they from school? How do they get to school? Are they participating in a breakfast program at school or do they eat at home? What time do classes start? What about lunch? In some schools, athletes are eating as early as 11:40 in the morning. That's really different. By the time school ends and they start practice at 3:30 or 4, it may have been over 4 hours or 5 hours since they've eaten. So by the end of practice, it's been over 6 hours plus all the energy expended. What about, what's the timing? What's the access? What's the commute? And then nighttime snack. Do they skip it? Do they eat? Do they graze all night and push bedtime later? And how much sleep are they getting? So here's an example A for one athlete. This athlete wakes, grabs a granola bar, goes to class, lunch 11:40. They might have a sandwich or a salad or chicken fingers or a yogurt and a fruit. School ends, practices at 3:30 or 4. Well, how well fueled are they for that practice? They may need close to 3,000 calories and all they've consumed is 500 calories by the time practice starts. Dinner, by the time they get to dinner, they eat a lot of whatever because they're famished and they might even feel out of control. And then they might be hungry all night or they might restrict and not eat. Maybe eating and pushing bedtime later. What we're really hoping is to have a more equal distribution of their calories throughout the day. And that really supports and being prepared for practice. So let's say 7:30 is as simple as cereal, milk, fruit, and a yogurt, or egg and cheese on an English muffin and an orange juice. That's 300 to 500 calories. Lunch, 11:40, sandwich, fruit, a yogurt, or a burrito, something to that sort, 600 calories. And after school pre-practice snack, and we're gonna look at more examples, something really easy to digest, pretzels, 100 calories. Practice. Now they're much better energy. They have much greater ability to concentrate, to learn plays, and to execute plays. Their timing, all that you ask of them, they're better able to do. They've now had 1,000 to 1,200 calories. By half the day, half of their calories have been consumed. Post-practice snack, unless they're going right to dinner, maybe chocolate milk. Dinner, 500 to 800 calories. Nighttime snack based on need and timing. Now they've taken in 2,200 to 2,800 calories distributed evenly throughout the day. Way more nutrients are included in that, and it's better able to meet their needs. So this slide is not that you're going to remember this, but for the sake of example and understanding this whole idea of underfueling versus the quality and what it means in terms of performance is here an athlete starts well stocked. This is glycogen is carbohydrate in their muscle, and it's correlated to how much energy they have to work hard. And after a hard practice, they might deplete. And over the next 12 to 24 hours, as they eat, there's slight decline no matter how well you do, which is one reason why one day off is so very important to replenish and restore. But if they're not eating, and although this is a low carb, also serves, even if it's just low energy availability, where they're not having quite enough. And so they do have energy for a second day practice, but look what happens. By the third day of practice, they're starting the workout below where they ended it on the first day. So what is this going to say about the quality of that workout and their ability to focus and effects on misstep and injury as well? So remember that we need to fuel ourselves and eat for many reasons. Energy is one, but actually even with in-day underfueling, which is called low energy availability, it can begin to affect our athletes' hormone levels, bone health, and they're really reaching peak bone mass during these years of adolescence, because by the time they're in their 20s and 30s, by the time they're in their 20s, they've reached their peak bone mass. Mental function, immune system, recovery, risk of injury, and so forth. When we think about when to snack, oh, this should have been a polling question, I have a feeling. Can we put up the polling question here? I think we might have, it might be after this, we skipped one. How close to practice can an athlete eat? 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, or within 15 minutes? Make your best guess. So in a way, this was a bit of a tricky question because of course they can eat at any of those times, but the answer, which no one got, was that they can eat within 15 minutes of taking the field. And I'll explain. So, when to snack in between meals to take the edge off hunger, before a practice, a heat, or competition if you have not eaten in over 3 hours, or after a hard bout of physical activity as part of recovery. So how might each of these snacks look differently? Well, if we're talking about mealtime's for nourishment, but when we're talking about eating around performance, it's for fueling. And so although for a meal you might have a stir fry, right up to playing time, if you haven't had a snack, you want to top off the tank, go ahead and have an easy to digest carbohydrate food, something like an applesauce, which you can imagine goes down it's almost like liquid, and it doesn't take much to digest. And so it's really just boosting your blood sugar in a good way to give you energy, a carb protein option, which can be bigger and a little bit more complex. The real idea is that the closer to moving, the smaller the amount of food, and you want to choose the easier to digest foods. So 2 hours before, you can have a turkey sandwich and an apple and maybe some pretzels. But then as you get closer, you might just have a turkey sandwich an hour before, or an hour and a half before, and right before you might just have the pretzels. So it really is based on the further away, the more complex and the larger the meal, the closer, the smaller the amount, and the easier to digest the food should be. So this is just an example of that, as I was sort of saying, whole grain bread, turkey sandwich, and it could be a turkey sandwich with an apple and some pretzels. An hour before, you might just have an apple. 15 minutes before, you might just have some pretzels. 2 hours before, you might have an English muffin and peanut butter. 3 hours before, it might be that English muffin, peanut butter, milk, and a banana. An hour before, just the milk and a banana. And 15 minutes before, just a half a banana. And so on. So you can see these examples that, again, it's like yogurt and fruit and nuts. And then an hour before, it's yogurt and maybe some granola. And 15 minutes before, it's just going to be some dried fruit. Or a hummus, feta cheese, and pita and hummus, or just even some pita bread. So again, the closer it is, you can eat right up to taking the field. It just should be small and easy to digest, 15 to 25 grams of carbohydrate. So here are just some more examples of some pre-practice or competition snacks. Applesauce or other fruit source pouches, cereal bars that are really easy to digest, sports bars. There's more than the ones listed here. Of course, salty snacks, because remember, sun salt along with fluid, as you'll learn next week, is helpful for fluid balance. Chex Mix pretzels, oatmeal cups, fruit cups, dry cereals like Cheerios or Chex, fruit, mini bagels, overnight oats, banana with nut butter. Depending if it's a meet or a competition, you might even go ahead and have like a wrap and cut it into small pieces so you can have it in small amounts along the way when you're not quite sure when you might have to step up and compete again. Coconut water or sports drink. So recovery, and I'm sure you've all heard a lot about recovery now, it's a little overstated in that, you know, as you saw in that graph, if you have 24 hours until your next workout, you really have time to recover. But there is something about that window in terms of helping with repair for not, you're repairing both energy and muscle. But when you're training hard on a daily basis or more than one practice in a day, it becomes even more important and helpful. It can also help high school athletes in particular, just because they need so many calories, and helping to distribute it all throughout the day can help take that kind of more sanely and just enjoy it, as opposed to being ravenous by the time they sit down. But if their dinner is their recovery, for some of them, they might get done at practice at 6, be home by 6:30 and eating. They don't then need a recovery. And there's nothing that has to be so proprietary about it. So one, the goal is to replenish glycogen, or that carbohydrate that you've depleted for the workout, to help repair muscle tissue and to help with rehydration. And then of course, part of recovery is rest and not encouraging overtraining. So yes, there are sports nutrition guidelines in terms of how much, based on weight, based on activity, but we really don't need to get that specific for this age group. It's getting into those patterns and having sort of enough that's important. They certainly can have more based on what their needs are. So for example, a Greek yogurt has 15 grams of carbohydrate and 15 grams of protein and 11 grams of carbohydrate. Chocolate milk, 16 ounces, has 16 grams of protein, 52 grams of carbohydrate. An egg or cheese stick has 6 or 7 grams of protein, but no carbohydrate, and the same thing with jerky. So the idea is that you might start with a protein base and then add carbohydrate as appropriate based on need. So you might have that Greek yogurt with a banana, which would get most athletes into sort of the zone they need to start replenishing. So it doesn't take a lot, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's as far away as like the refrigerated section of any supermarket. And then they're going to go ahead and eat dinner an hour and a half later. And that's how we really do our best in terms of restoring. So some post-practice competition snacking idea: chocolate milk, lactose-free milk. And you can get these, the ones that are shelf stable, as well as the ones that, again, are just as far away as any refrigerated section. Peanut butter and jelly with milk, tuna packets with crackers or a pita pocket, hard-boiled eggs and crackers, cottage cheese with pineapple. There's dried fava beans or dried garbanzo beans. They come in snack packs that are really easy to travel with. Beef or turkey jerky with pretzels, homemade trail mix, Greek yogurt with fruit and or granola, smoothies that you can buy already made. They're kefir or yogurt based, recovery shakes, recovery bars. There are fast food that you can get, potato with chili or shredded cheese, or, you know, build your own burrito style bowls with beans, rice. The way you can really just simply encourage your athletes is by saying things like, have you eaten breakfast today? Hope you all had a snack before practice. Remember to eat soon after practice. If you can, bring a snack. And build in water breaks. Again, hydration next week. And I say this because again, it's very hard, I think, for coaches who are also consumers and athletes perhaps themselves to sometimes feel like they're in the position where they should be giving out these specific nutrition advice versus just supporting and sending the message that food is fuel and food is nourishment. Athletes get a lot of messaging about how to sort of almost be scared of food these days, those top 10 foods, or it'll hurt them off, it'll ruin their career on and off the court. Those kind of messaging they're used to getting. They're not used to getting a message that is expand your food choices, eat for fuel, eat for health, eat for well-being, eat for performance. Sports nutrition can do a lot: consistency, energy, stamina, avoid injury, staying healthy, sleep, mood, focus, concentration, weight management, strength, bone health, lean mass, body composition, when done correctly and done with enthusiasm. So help your athletes focus on building a fundamental nutritional foundation first, recognize where your athlete is developmentally, understanding what their goals are, be sensitive to ethnic, cultural, economic, and home situations. Help athletes understand the connection between food and fuel is positive. Encourage athletes to eat before practice. Encourage them to eat after practice. And just recognize that sports nutrition is a strategy for better performance. I believe that we are going to open it up for questions. I'm just reminding everyone that practice makes progress. Food is not about perfection. You do not have to eat perfectly to eat healthfully. We have these post-webinar questions now, and we'll give you a few moments to ask them, to answer them.
And Heidi, while everyone's filling out those post-webinar questions, you could feel free to advance to one more slide there where you have your book featured, if you want to just speak to that as well while people are filling out the polls.
Yeah, I don't think I can while this is
I got you. Okay.
While they're doing that, do you want me to put the video back on for questions or not?
No, you can keep it as is for now. We'll let this poll finish and close out, and then there we go. Courtney just took back the control there, so you could speak to that book if you'd like now.
Sure. So I just, thanks for giving me the opportunity to share this. I'm very excited to share the Athlete Triad Playbook, Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport. It is really a notebook of 40 different downloadable handouts, so you can use them remotely. If you're working with athletes, you can download them and give them out as handouts to help athletes understand the connection between fueling and health and fixing the low energy availability, which affects their hormonal health dysfunction and as well as bone health. And so there's, as I said, different things on REDS and the Triad, different things on different nutrients like calcium, protein, carbohydrates, and sports nutrition handouts as well.
Sounds like a wonderful resource.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we can advance that slide. All right, great. So I just want to remind everybody to put any questions that you may have in the Q&A box. We're hoping, we do have a few minutes here to answer some questions. While people are typing questions in there, I just would also like to mention on the next slide that we do have an upcoming webinar, the last in our series, which is next week. It's focused on hydration and the high school athlete, and it's by another one of our SNAP Sports Nutrition Advisory panelists, Molly Morgan. So I just want to mention that as well. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone, especially Heidi. I know we had a little bit of a lag there with the video and the sound, but thanks to everyone for being patient in the process. I want to mention that if anyone did miss a certain part of what Heidi was saying, or if you have any questions that you were unclear on the information that was given, please feel free to email me and I can address those with Heidi, because we really want to make sure that this webinar was a valuable resource to you despite some audio glitches, which we'll get fixed up for next week's webinar. So any questions that you're not, you weren't sure of during the presentation, send them over to me and we'll get them answered for you. And I really want to thank Heidi today too for your patience as well. This is just some really great information as students are returning to sports and coaches are returning to schools and coaching these student athletes that maybe have been a little bit not so active and not so focused on nutrition over the last 6 months or so. So great resource. And if we could just advance to the next slide as well. I want to let everybody know, I know you've all been waiting for who the 3 raffle winners are for the Refuel with Chocolate Milk refrigerated weight room cooler and the $500 to stock it with chocolate milk. So those winners are Bob Barron, Connor Rush, and Amy Petro. So congratulations to the 3 of you. We will be in touch with you post-webinar to get all those details to you as well. So those are the winners. If you don't mind filling out the post-poll questions real quickly, you could just scroll down. There's a few there. We really want to see what content you all want us to create for you, for the student athletes. So if you could please fill out those post-poll questions, greatly appreciate it. And while we're doing that, in closing, again, Heidi, I just want to say thank you for providing the content on today's webinar. We really appreciate your expertise on the subject. I'm really lucky to have you present to our high school coaches here in our territory. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
To all the attendees, again, thank you again. We hope that you tune in next week for our last webinar in this series. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email was in the initial registration e-blast. So if you still have that, send me a note. We will be sending a post-webinar e-blast that has a link to the recording, a recap blog post of this content, as well as the slide deck. So with that, thank you again for having such an instrumental role in the lives of the student athletes that you work with. We'll be in touch throughout the year, I'm sure, and stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. Bye, Heidi.